Yes! Hello, my beautiful friends. What an amazing day it is. Welcome back. I hope your weekend was absolutely outstanding and you're roaring and ready to go. We got a bunch of very interesting business to attend to today. Starting in Oregon, because President Trump is now appealing the judicial takeover of the city, saying that, in the state really, saying that Trump, the president, cannot move any National Guard from anywhere at any time. So from California, from Texas, even locally in Oregon, he just is, I guess, not the president anymore, and another judge is. Her name is Karen or Karine or something. So we'll go into all of that. Quick preview, then we'll zoom in for further detail. But here is the appeal to the Ninth Circuit, just dropped fresh out of the oven last night, coming in courtesy of the crew out there, the deputy attorneys and the civil division, taking this up immediately. And we're going to start this segment off with a little bit of Stephen Miller, just to kind of get, set the tone, set the flavor on this thing before we get into it further, because this is the decision that we're now appealing. And so we'll hit the highlights, explain exactly what's going on. This is the judge who is behind the whole thing, Karen Immergut. And she was appointed by President Trump and actually had some appointments, or she was appointed by Bush and then appointed by Trump. So kind of worked her way up along the Republican side. Anyway, so we got that. We got lots of reaction to what's happening in Portland and Oregon and the nationalization or the federal police coming in to deal with these Antifa terrorists, as Stephen Miller has to say. And so we'll go through it. Caitlin Collins was asking our friend Caroline Levitt about this today. We've got this dude who's being carted away on a very convenient conveyance, as we'll come back to. So we got a bunch of stuff on Portland and Stephen Miller, of course, duking it out with the media. President Trump was also out talking about this today, about what is coming next. And so bunch of good stuff to get to there in the first segment today. Then we're going to turn our attention to this story. We've got now a foreign country dropping $4.1 million to go and bolster support amongst Christians, and they're targeting Christian churches. And this is a very interesting document that just got dropped. You can see it's 86 pages. We'll go through most of it, but this is the FARA document, the Foreign Agents Registration Act, that shows that a bunch of money is coming in, and it's specifically targeting churches literally. And there's a whole list of the churches that we'll talk about. Let me just preview this for you right here. They're all in here. So if you're on the West Coast of the United States, your church may be on this list of being targeted for info warfare. So anyways, we're going to go through it. We got the whole document queued up there. We've got a compare and contrast with the Russian spending and the Russian advertisements. And then we'll hear from Benjamin himself. And of course, see what you have to say about all of this and more. So it's going to be a great stream, and we're going to get into some documents on the day. I wanted to share with you before we do that, this quick story / promo, because today I want to talk about Comet, the new browser from Perplexity. It's free. You can go over there. Link is in the description below. And so right now we're inside the browser, and we've got this post queued up from Chuck Grassley, which is another shocking story, but we'll get into this one as soon as we get more documents. But Chuck Grassley just posted this about this document. You might say, well, it's kind of a weird document. What does it mean? What is it all about? What's cool about Perplexity is that its AI assistant works right in the browser. So if you just click this little button up here, you can see it's right up here in the browser. Click Assistant, then it's going to pop the assistant out. And for example, it'll just read what is right on your screen. So here you can see it just knows what to do. It's Twitter. So can you just summarize this thread for us? And it's going to do that right now and just summarize it. It's going to, okay, so Chuck Grassley is now claiming blah, blah, blah. The thread references what this is. And essentially what is happening is Chuck Grassley is saying that you've got 8 senators who all got spied on by the FBI. So my point is that the assistant, the AI assistant, can see what you're doing on your screen and respond to questions. So you can talk about it. It also summarizes all of the comments and suggestions, and you can chat with it. Well, what would a good response be? It can also just go in there and fill out a reply for you. I mean, it's pretty wild. So you can go in here, you can just say, well, you know what I want you to do is just fill out a reply. It'll draft it up and put it in there because it controls the browser. So it's a cool app. It's a really cool development. And I think we're going to see a lot of development even in this program. It's going to get more advanced and more functional. So check it out. We appreciate them sponsoring the show. It is something I use regularly. Perplexity AI is awesome. It's very fast. It replaces a lot of my Google searches. And so we appreciate them supporting our show today and getting into it. All right, so we got some other business to attend to now that we have warmed up the tubes, and it's great to have you here. Let's make sure we're coming in loud and clear across the board. Beautiful. What a lovely Monday it is. All right, so let's get to it. Here is what's happening out in legal land. President Trump immediately appealing the Oregon Judicial Takeover and responding about what's coming next. And so we've got this appeal that you can see is fresh out of the oven. It's an emergency motion submitted by the attorneys at the Civil Division out in California, or that region, saying now we're in the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals that covers Oregon, California, and a bunch of other states out there. So it's Oregon versus Donald Trump, and we've got some background on this. We're going to go into this opinion because this is an appeal, rather, a motion from the DOJ to try to stop the lower level judge, which is this woman. This judge, her name is Karen or Karen, or, you know, sometimes the Karens, if you spell it that way, they get all agitated. You're like, oh, hey, Karen. They're like, it's Karen, jerk. You're going to jail now, right? So she's a judge. So she is the judge who issued the lower level ruling. Of course, she's on the FISA court as well, which is just perfect. But she's the judge for the District of Oregon, and she was appointed by President Trump to that position after having come up under George Bush, and she was actually involved in the interview of Monica Lewinsky against Clinton. So she's been around a while, and she issued this decision that basically said, Trump, you cannot bring in the National Guard from anywhere, from California. You can't activate them from Oregon. You can't bring them in from Texas. You can't do anything. All right. You're basically cut off. I'm the president now. And the background on this case is very extensive. So as we can see, this was originally filed back in September 28th, 2025. And a bunch of stuff has happened. So Oregon, Portland, all the defendants sue Trump, say, you can't send your National Guard in here. We've got everything under control. Case got assigned to this one dude named Michael H. Simon, except unfortunately, his wife, I think, is a congresswoman who like hates Trump or something. So they filed a motion to recuse this dude, and he has now been recused. So then we've got a bunch of declarations coming in, and this is all evidence from the states. This is Brian Marshall. This is Cameron Bailey. You're going to see a bunch of sheriffs and, you know, other officials who are all saying, we've got it all under control, submitting all of this attachment after attachment after attachment. We'll fast forward through it. And another declaration in support of the restraining order. Stop Trump from deploying these people. Another declaration in support. Okay. Then we have a telephone conference. Attorneys come skidding in here, filing their notices of appearances. Then another one from the state of Oregon. Their lawyers are coming in. Portland's coming in. Whoa, they submitted a flash drive on USB, making note of that. Then we've got the DOJ saying, actually, you should probably recuse yourself, Judge, because your wife hates us. And we fast forward, and ultimately he left. So then we get more declarations. Okay, Oregon. We've got another one from Oregon. Declaration from this dude. Declaration from Franz again, saying everything's under control. Leave us alone. And so now we've got another affidavit. It's a lot of these affidavits all coming in support of this. We're going to see eventually. And so you can see all this activity. This case just got filed, but all this activity, bunch more exhibits, more declarations, order, motions, hearing held. And now we're getting closer into where we're at. And the judge has now recused himself. And then Trump has now appealed. Okay, so she issued her temporary restraining orders. Now Trump has appealed. They've amended the complaint. We've got a scheduling order. And so you can see just a lot of activity. So everybody's crashing their cars into this and trying to anchor this win in and keep the standard so that they can parlay this back over to California, Chicago, and all these other states. So that's the procedural history. A lot of activity. Everybody's crashing into there. And we're going to get into the actual appeal now. So she issued the ruling. The appeal is going up to the Ninth Circuit. Before we get to the appeal, let's set the mood with a little Stephen Miller, who's explaining what is actually going on out there and why the National Guard need to be deployed.
Do you have any idea how much of ICE's workforce and resources have had to be reprioritized? How much of the Joint Terrorism Task Force's resources have had to be reprioritized to fight these domestic terrorists? Do you have any idea how many resources are spent
you keep
trying
calling
to
them
hunt down and
terrorists,
track
but isn't that hyperbolic to call them terrorists?
What is? If anything, I'm understating the severity of the situation. What issue was more central in 2024 than turning back the border invasion? And since the day we came in, ICE officers have been subjected to a nonstop campaign of physical violence and harassment every single day. And outside the Portland field office in particular, every night, they come, they assemble, they fight, they try to impede movement, they physically attack. For what purpose? Because we had an election, Boris. We had one. What's the purpose? To use actual physical violence to change the result of the election, to say you cannot turn back the border invasion. Do you have any idea how many resources we have had to redesignate to deal with these street terrorists?
All right, and he's going to continue to explain what's happening out there, but here is there, as Stephen Miller said, and they're throwing fireworks and incendiaries and explosives at police officers. And I don't remember, did the January 6th deal, okay, so the judge said, Trump, you can't deploy the National Guard anywhere, from any states, at any place, anytime. I'm the president now. And here's what Trump's DOJ is saying in response. They write, this is an emergency motion, Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. We need an immediate stay. We need to deploy these National Guard troops to protect our officers. And here, this is more. The table of contents, we'll fast forward through it, but they tell us explicitly, just to highlight the main takeaway, is that the president is empowered by the judge, by the law, to make a decision. That's why we have a president. So it's a rule by one individual, not by a committee. Somebody's responsible and politically accountable for the decisions. Congress delegates these powers to the president. The president invokes those. You can't have a judge substitute her judgment for the president's judgment, because that makes her the president, as we're going to see. Now, there might be some other procedural problems or some other, rationale for the unlawfulness of the presidency, but just that I don't like your decision, give or take, which is what this is ultimately about, is not good enough. That's why you're a judge, not the president. You don't get to substitute your decision for something that's clearly delegated to the president. So that is the table of contents, but let's just get right to it. Now you can see here is what the Trump DOJ is writing into the Ninth Circuit. They say, all right, Ninth Circuit, we're trying to save our society and deport illegal aliens here without being attacked by goons on the streets. This district court has entered an extraordinary order from Immergut, countermanding the president's decision to call forth the National Guard to protect federal officers in Portland from violent attacks, to protect federal officers and other property. Now, this court should stay this lower order, okay? So stop her from stopping us, and should also grant an immediate stay so that our order and Trump's executive order and the deployment go into effect. And this court, by the way, you've already done this before, okay? You did this in LA where we had the power. Now, under U.S. code, under the law, this is U.S. statute, so Congress passes these laws. The president is authorized to federalize the National Guard when he is unable with regular forces, now quoting the law, to execute the laws of the United States, or if there is a rebellion or danger of a rebellion, which that certainly looked like, against the authority of the government of the United States. ICE is deporting people. Portland, LA, these sanctuary cities are the epicenter of the illegal alien invasion. They've got all these services. We were paying for it. They were flooding the zone. And now ICE is there acting to remove them. So they are they're obstructing their work. They're rebelling against their authority, throwing fireworks at them. You can see them exploding behind their backs. And that video was reposted by Rapid Response 47. So they endorsed its source and shared it on their timeline. Now, both conditions apply in Portland. Over the past several months, agitators have assaulted federal officers with rocks, bricks, pepper spray, and incendiary devices, and threatened federal personnel at their work. And if Trump's FBI and DOJ was anything like as just, ruthless, which we'd like to see maybe a little bit more out of, as the Biden DOJ, these people would have been rounded up immediately for insurrection or whatever's made up stupid charge that they want to charge them with. They can make one up, just like they did with the J6ers. 1512C, obstruction of documents. Imprison and lock up a bunch of people for made up charges that were reversed. So, and of course, I'm not condoning that, but I'm just saying maybe they could find another basis and, hire some more prosecutors and go kick their doors in for actually throwing incendiary devices at federal law enforcement officials. Now, they have followed federal officers to their homes. They're doxing them online. They're threatening to eliminate them on social media. They have also seriously damaged a federal building. They broke windows, security equipment. They blockaded the entrance. And so these violent actions, Ninth Circuit, which local law enforcement officials have been unwilling or unable to control, impede the ability of ICE and other federal officials to enforce federal law, and they constitute a rebellion. Now, although the violence has somewhat abated in the past month, that's only because we've deployed more forces from the feds. But this has become unsustainable. Now, in concluding that the law's conditions were not satisfied, the judge said, well, I know Congress gave you that power, but there were some conditions on that power. This lower level judge is impermissibly second guessing the commander-in-chief's military judgments, and she's not elected the president. Something district courts lack the authority and the competence to do. Nearly 200 years ago, the Supreme Court made it very clear. These judgment calls are for the president to make, not a governor, and certainly not a federal court. The judge doesn't know what the hell's going on. At a minimum, or have the authority to rectify that. It's not her job. Now, at a minimum, as a stay panel of this court explained, courts must give a great level of deference to the president's determination that one of the condition exists if the president makes that decision. He's in a better position to make that decision because he's, the president. And the president here had more than ample grounds to determine that regular forces were unable to sufficiently protect the feds because the conditions in Portland rose to the level of a danger or a rebellion. Now, where ongoing violence, threats of violence, and harassment aimed at interfering with enforcement of federal immigration laws have stretched the regular forces beyond their capacity, the president can do this. He can call up the Guard in response to the acute dangers and deal with it. So the lower level judge's order, it improperly impinges on the commander-in-chief's supervision of the military. It countermands a specific military directive, and it endangers federal personnel and their property. So we have to balance the harms. And they weigh strongly in favor of granting us relief. Now, we want a stay no later than today, and a stay pending appeal no later than October 10th, rather. And they oppose this, and they're going to file a response immediately. So all of this is happening rapidly. Here's the background. The Constitution of the United States authorizes Congress to raise and support a national army and to organize the militia. Now, exercising that authority, and you can just look that up, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 15, clear as day, militia. Now, exercising that authority, Congress created the National Guard. And the National Guard is composed of state National Guard under the command of several states and under the provision of a federal entity. And once called into federal service, members of the National Guard shift, they lose, they swap from state militia during their period of active duty. So they become federalized. And they serve under the president as the commander-in-chief. Now, Congress has granted the president authorities under which he may call forth the National Guard if these conditions are met. Here's what they say. Whenever, 2, there is a rebellion or danger of a rebellion against the authority of the government of the United States. They're attacking a federal building because the federal building is exercising its authority. The president is unable, or 3, is unable with regular forces to execute the laws. He can't continue these deportations where they're throwing fireworks at their heads. So he can bring them in to suppress the rebellion and to execute those laws. Pretty clear. Even this judge should be able to read this and figure it out, but she couldn't. So here's the background from Trump's DOJ. They write to the Ninth Circuit. All right, Ninth Circuit. Throughout the summer, ICE has seen a sharp and violent increase in protests and attempts to impede its duties enforcing the national immigration laws. In fact, in LA, violent mobs attacked federal officers with concrete chunks, commercial-grade fireworks, and rocks, and they used dumpsters as battering rams to breach federal buildings. Last week, a man opened fire on ICE, killing 2 detainees and injuring another. ICE's facility, also located in downtown Portland, has experienced significant unrest targeting the facility itself. Officers have feared for their safety. In one of the most significant incidents, agitators marched over to Portland, lobbed rocks and sticks, and one protester even wielded a firearm. Now, at the same time, they launched M80 fireworks, they launched mortars, and more. To ensure their safety, officers were forced to barricade themselves inside the ICE facility. They were only able to escape after special tactical units were deployed, and they made use of armored vehicles. Several officers suffered injuries during this incident of mob violence. And it's weird, like, Anderson Cooper's not out there like, this is the greatest threat to our democracy since the Civil War. Now, this incident is far from isolated. Officers have been bitten, kicked, shot with paintball guns, threatened with machetes and knives, assaulted with potentially blinding lasers. Protesters have assembled a mock guillotine. Oh my gosh, just like the intelligence agencies did on January 6th. Wow. And they have directly threatened officers' lives. Do we ever find out who made that guillotine? He's gone with the wind also, right? Just like the pipe bomber. Officers' personally identifiable information has been gathered and publicly released. They're doxing them so that they can be shot and killed. And it has become commonplace for officers to be followed after leaving their work. Indeed, officers are regularly trapped in their cars when entering and leaving federal property. And on multiple occasions, we had to use pepper spray to disperse the crowds. And property is also under attack as well, judges. Protesters repeatedly tried to burn it down, the Portland ICE office, burn the whole building down, endangering federal property and more. In one incident, a protester lit a flare and set fire to materials piled against the office. The mob then piled on additional tinder, attempting to stoke the flames. In another incident, protesters burned the American flag on the ICE office's driveway, and they lit an incendiary device next to that building's guard shack. Again, threatening to start a fire that would destroy property and endanger lives. Night after night. Separately, protesters have thrown rocks at the buildings. They've damaged the main gate, card readers, security cameras. They're trying to breach the facility, and they're causing significant security risks. They've also poured motor oil over the building entrance, creating both a fire risk and a direct threat to human safety. Didn't Braveheart try that? Yeah, in that one battle in the field. As a result of damage and threats to the building, I think it was motor oil, but you know the point. It says the DHS was required to close the Portland facility for 3 weeks. And if it's closed, then they can't use it to deport and afuera these people. And even now that the facility is reopened, it must be boarded up to prevent further damage. Now, FPS is charged with protecting the building, and they are stretched to the point of collapse. The sustained violence and security risks have required FPS to provide 24/7 protection for the building, and a task it is simply not resourced to accomplish. Now, to date, 115 FPF officers have deployed to Portland in order to maintain this operational tempo. Homeland has been forced to reassign members of the Homeland Security Investigations team, and now creating a Portland Special Response team to support FPS. And to date, 115 officers have been deployed. And while FPS has repeatedly attempted to contact the police for assistance, the Portland police are failing to respond to calls for assistance. And even when they have responded, their response has been delayed. They don't care. They're like, oh, we'll get there. Your building's on fire? Yeah, we'll get there soon enough. Plaintiffs' own declarations show the dire situation in Portland. So all those materials we just fast forwarded through, they're explaining them. Throughout September 2025, ICE officials and property have been the subject of regular and violent protest. Large groups gathering, many interfering with cars. During one protest, the Portland police concluded that they would not be able to address the call. Sorry, we can't make it. So based on the ongoing violence, Homeland transmitted a memo to the Department of War. They said, hey, can you guys help us with this? Said, we have to continue the protection of federal facilities. Please help. On the morning of September 27th, Trump cited the request and directed Hegseth, Secretary of War, to now deploy. Then they contacted the Oregon officials and they said, well, we're going to federalize these troops. Now, the Oregon general rejected it. He said, no, you're not. He said, we're unwilling to lend our support, so you're not going to have our troops. So then the president said, well, okay, well, we are overruling you. We're the federal government, and federalize the Oregon National Guard members. Trump explained, he said, as I've determined, I am now activating these people to go deal with Antifa and the radical left lunatics. So those conclusions were consistent with the assessments that the president made earlier when talking about LA. He also found for those incidents that there were numerous incidences of violence and disorder, and all of this violence and disorder threatens the security of America. So then Hegseth issued a memo and mobilized 200 members of the National Guard for 60 days, and they did not like that. So then they sued. They said, you're violating this. You're using these federal agents for local law enforcement. You can't do that. They sought a TRO. The court said, yep, you violated this. So Trump, you cannot deploy any of these people. They say this is ridiculous. Court of Appeals, just so you know, you have jurisdiction. It is now ripe for you to hear this. They issued a 31-page order, and we can now appeal this. It basically consider it a preliminary injunction, accept our case, hear it, and rule in our favor. Now, you may also, if you don't like that, like if you don't think it's final enough for you, then you can exercise different mandamus jurisdiction and review it anyways. And they say, you better take this case because we're going to win. The Constitution authorizes Congress to provide for calling forth the militia. They pass laws empowering the president to do exactly that. And the president alone decides whether those conditions are met or not. And the president did decide that, explaining that Congress vested the decision of the National Guard into the president. In fact, this happened 200 years ago, nearly. Saying President Madison activated the state militia, and a member of the New York militia challenged the penalties, but the Supreme Court didn't want to entertain any of this. They said, what? You can't say that the president misjudged the danger. The law gives that power to the president. The president is the judge, okay? That is the law. The president is the judge, not the judge. Once the president judged that the exigency existed, his judgment was conclusive upon all other persons. That's why we have a president to make those very decisions. And that includes the courts. They're citing old case law from 1849, Supreme Court cases right there. You can't have a judge substitute their judgment for the president. If the Supreme Court thinks that, what Trump did was unconstitutional or something, there's a much stronger argument there that they could check that. But not a federal level district judge overriding the president. That's a whole separate issue, right? Just about what courts actually are equal and opposite to the president. So those same principles apply here. Now, they want to second guess the president's judgment. They can't do that. But as even they found in Los Angeles, the law makes clear that Congress has granted the authority to decide whether conditions are satisfied exclusively to the president. Can't have some other judge in Oregon make that decision. Now, notwithstanding this case, Martin, the panel that stayed the order that was enjoying the deployment in LA is available. It's highly deferential and it's available. You can read it. And other cases are explaining the same. The court made clear that the governor was appropriately vested with the discretion to determine whether an exigency occurred for the governor, and his decision was also conclusive. But the court did not second guess in a prior case that the governor's decision was unjustified, right? So the court won't even substitute their judgment in for certain governors. Now, even if some judicial review is permitted, at minimum, they must give a great level of deference because they don't have the facts. And the plaintiff's only path to judicial review in this case is a Hail Mary pass, and it rarely succeeds. They're trying to invoke the APA, another provision that we've seen a lot of here, historically speaking, from the Democrats to try to stop whatever Trump is doing. Now, they cannot satisfy these demands. In the weeks leading up to this, there were violent groups. They were just obstructing federal law enforcement. So our standards have been met. Outside the facility, there's pepper spray, rocks, bricks, incendiary devices. Been going on day after day, night after night. The cops can't get their hands around it. Individuals working inside the facility and outside were doxxed. They're under attack every night. So these conditions amply support the president's judgment that they can deploy the National Guard. And the president further explains, these are acts of violence. They are directly inhibiting the execution of federal law. So Congress enacted all of this in response to the Whiskey Rebellion, which was a protest against a specific tax. Okay. They weren't trying to overthrow the government as a whole. They were just rejecting lawful authority. And dictionaries explain what a rebellion is. And it reflects, the historical context. It's opposition to government authority. So the Whiskey Rebellion was an opposition to a tax, and that was a rebellion, meaning the president can do the same thing. Yeah, so here, now in issuing its injunction, the district court substituted its own judgment for that of the president and failed to engage in the review. You can't judge Immergut, substitute your opinion for the president's just because you're unhappy with the deportations or whatever. Put simply, the district court built its entire decision around a single premise, quote, that the protests were small and uneventful. Okay, that was her opinion. Well, it's your opinion. You're not the president. When the president issued his decision, but the district court itself identified several incidents, and there's ample evidence that the violence was much more than just small or uneventful. In fact, their own evidence shows how dire it is. Throughout September 2025 this year, ICE officials and property were the subject of regular attacks. And they're kind of citing all of these attachments and exhibits. Multiple citizens called the Portland police complaining about the mob. One person called the Portland police useless. Then a mob of 50 to 60 protesters were surrounding everybody, flashing lights. And it just goes on and on. On the same day, they had to respond to a bomb threat. These people are maniacs. Now, this is far from categorically different from violent incidents. The judge is saying this, no, it's not big a deal, and you can just kind of gloss over it. But it is the same. The district court erred by focusing only on the situation in Portland and not elsewhere. The president was well within his discretion to consider this months-long unrest throughout Portland, multiple locations, and although the violence is somewhat abated, it's because we've had a bigger show of force, saying the president is not required to deploy these people nationwide, and he can decide where to apportion resources. So events outside Portland, like a recent shooting in Dallas and other things, are showing the context and enforcement of the law is necessarily a national endeavor. It's a resource-intensive mission, and we got to move people around as necessary. Now, the rest of their claims fail as well. Federalizing the National Guard is not a violation of the 10th Amendment. We have the authority to do that pursuant to Congress, which has the power to provide for calling forth a militia. So how is it not in there that the federal government can do that? So meaning it's a right that's reserved to the states. That doesn't make any sense. So you should grant a stay that we've got to protect our personnel and our property. On the other side, they don't need any relief. All we're doing is going to secure the premises. Like there's no other harm to them other than having more troops on the streets. So what are they so upset about? Is it going to be that the actual law will be enforced and the deportations will continue? We think so. So they can only speculate that emergencies and unrest might occur, but it's all speculation. We're actually going to have more troops. We're going to have more safety. Their argument is that the more people you bring in, the more agitation your troops are creating. Yeah, I guess you're agitating the criminals and the illegal aliens. So don't want to agitate them or else they'll burn your buildings down. In conclusion, signed by J. Kane Day immediately after the judge issued her orders, saying the court should grant our motion and stop the lower level judge from stopping President Trump from deploying the National Guard in there. And that is where we're at. And so let me just take a quick look at the rest of the docket to see if there's any other activity. Let's do a refresh over here to see if there's any activity on this one. Documents filed under seal today. And I don't know exactly what those are, but that's that. So we'll keep our eye on that. Of course, we'll wait for the Court of Appeals to issue a ruling. But here is what Caroline Levitt was asked today by Caitlin Collins.
A federal judge over the weekend that the president had appointed to the bench in his first term in office basically argued that he could not deploy other states' National Guards to Portland. Basically said that it was untethered, his argument, to what is actually happening on the ground. Which local officials in Portland have said that the National Guard is needed there?
With all due respect to that judge, I think her opinion is untethered in reality and in the law. The president is using his authority as commander-in-chief, U.S. Code 12406, which clearly states that the president has the right to call up the National Guard in cases where he deems it's appropriate. And if you look at what has happened in Portland, Oregon, for more than 100 nights, I was talking to our law enforcement team about it this morning, for more than 100 days, night after night after night, the ICE facility has been really under siege by these anarchists outside. They have been disrespecting law enforcement. They've been inciting violence. We saw, again, a guillotine rolled out in front of this federal building. And so the president wants to ensure that our federal buildings and our assets are protected. And that's exactly what he's trying to do. And ultimately, in the case in Los Angeles, that judge ruled in the Ninth Circuit, that panel of judges ruled that those troops could remain and that the president was well within his authority to do so. So we are appealing that decision. As you know, we expect a hearing on it pretty quickly, and we're very confident in the president's legal authority to do this, and we're very confident we will win on the merits of the law.
But no local officials that you can point to that have said we need the National Guard? Because I spoke to the police chief of Portland last week. He said that the president's claims just don't match up with what's happening on the ground.
I would encourage you as a reporter to go on the ground and to take a look at it for yourself, because there's been many members of the press, not press in this room, but independent journalists, some of whom we'll be inviting to the White House very soon to share their stories, because they have been in the middle of these riots and they have witnessed the anarchy that is taking place night after night. It's on video. You should play it on your show. You have a great opportunity on prime time on CNN to show your audience. Yeah, but you're probably talking to partisan Democrat officials who are opposed to everything this president does. You should also ask the people who live in Portland. We've actually heard from many members of the community who have said that this is complete civil disobedience. It's a mess. It's been loud. It's been troubling for neighbors in the community who are just trying to live peacefully. And these people are not there to peacefully protest. They are there to cause mayhem and havoc.
Exactly right. You could see it by the fact that they're launching fireworks at federal agents. Here, rest assured, ICE will make sure that you are facilitated to your final destination, and they even have a very convenient conveyance. So if you don't want to walk, no problem. They'll just drop you here on this dolly and wheel you right onto the airplane, amigo.
They see me rolling, they hating, patrolling and trying to catch me
riding dirty. So you can see this amigo, or whoever this person is, I don't know what's going on, is getting afuerad. And that's from an official government, account. Now, again, I'm not in favor generally of people being carted on dollies, but by our government. But if you don't want to walk, I guess that's one way to do it. You don't want to throw your back out dealing with these Antifa communists, so just put them on the dolly. You got a dolly? Yeah, let me get it. I just got done moving some other person. All right, so that's happening. And here's Stephen Miller out explaining, look, man, leave us alone with your stupid questions, okay? These are criminal maniacs and communist agitators who are attacking federal officials night after night after night. They're organized. They come back. They got text groups. They got money that's funding all this. Don't know if they have real day jobs or whatever. But here's Stephen Miller calling out CNN for what they are.
Is it the case that, as Pritzker frames it, you are profiling brown people, that this immigration crackdown is designed to go after people of color?
It's such a, oh, what a dumb question. The illegal aliens who are here are taking jobs away from blacks. They're taking jobs away from whites. They're taking jobs away from Latinos. They're taking their health benefits away. They're taking their school slots away. And of course, in many cases, they're committing heinous crimes. We cannot have a system of law in this country that privileges illegal aliens over American citizens. And that's what they're doing. You know it, and I know it.
So that's not exactly a no, Stephen. Can you just unequivocally state that the immigration policy... I said it's a dumb question. Okay.
Well,
I appreciate that. But
it's a dumb question.
So no, this policy is not designed to... I thought
when I said it was a dumb question, it meant no.
Yeah. Well, I just want to be clear and precise. I appreciate you trying to qualify my questions, but
so
nevertheless,
you are targeting
I think it's a fair one that a lot of people
brown
have.
people.
My full answer is no. That is a lie, and it's a dumb question.
So it is a dumb question. And it's just something that they can't get over. They have to just keep going back to that. They're spring loaded. Everything is racism because they have nothing else to talk about. That has been their entire modus operandi for winning elections for like the last, I don't know, however many decades, like Obama since then, probably. So here is Trump, the president, talking about this from the White House in the Oval Office today, asked about what is coming next.
Across the country, including the shooting in Dallas and over the weekend in Chicago. We saw 10 cars boxing in on ICE agents and another one ramming into an ICE vehicle.
Yeah.
We have heard Secretary Noem saying that some of these attackers are actually organized and they're planning to kill and ambush these officers.
Right.
What are the consequences for you?
Very severe. We're going to have very severe. We're going to find out who's going after our federal agents. So when you look at Chicago, they've had probably 50 murders in the last 6 or 7 months, 8 months. Many, many people shot, like 30, 40, 50 people shot. Didn't die, but they've been shot. It's like a war zone. And then I listened to the governor and the mayor. Mr. Worse than
Mr. President
in the world. You could go to Afghanistan. You can go to a lot of different places, and they probably marvel at how much crime we have. Then you go to Memphis, where we are right now. Now, it's just like in Washington, D.C. right now. You people know better than I do because you have to live right inside. And so many of the press have come to me. They've said, I can't believe it. It's changed so much. We have a safe city in Washington. Memphis will very soon have a safe city. Chicago can be very, very safe. It's going to be very safe. But Chicago is going to be very safe. And you say, why is it that a governor wouldn't accept free help from regardless? I mean, whether it's National Guard or the military or anybody.
Yeah.
I mean, if women raped and beaten and knocked to hell, and the same with men where they're being shot all over the place in large numbers. I mean, we had a week in Chicago where 11 people were murdered and 38 people were shot. And then we have a governor get up and say, oh, it's safe, we can handle it. He can't handle it. He's an incompetent guy. That's why they threw him out of the family business. They threw him out. I knew the family business very well, and they threw him out. And now he's a governor. And he should say, we'd love to have a safer place. Chicago's a great city, potentially. You know, I told you, the head of the Union Pacific Railroad said, sir, save Chicago. It's a great city. It's going to be lost if you don't do it. We have no choice but to do this. And when judges give us rulings that, you know, you don't have to do it, Portland is on fire. Portland's been on fire for years. And not so much saving it. We have to save something else because I think that's all insurrection. I really think that's really criminal insurrection. So I appreciate the question. These are unsafe places. We're going to make them safe. So you see what's going on in Memphis. Not pretty, but you know what? We're doing a pretty job because it's going to be a very safe place in a little while. And the people of Memphis are so happy that we're there. And the people of Chicago. So you have black women with MAGA hats on in Chicago.
Shout out to our black women with MAGA hats on.
The guard to come in, or they don't care who comes in. They just want to be safe. And they really don't care. You know, there was one woman, and she was great today. She said, you know what? I don't care if it's the National Guard, the Army, the Marines, the Air Force. I don't care who comes in as long as we're safe. And that's the way most of the public feels. We're going to make Chicago really great again. And we're going to stop this crime. Then we're going to go to another one, and we're going to go city by city. We're going to have safe cities. And it was so great that we started with our nation's capital, one of the worst. I mean, so many people, every week, somebody was killed. They'd come from Iowa, they'd come from Indiana. They want to see the Jefferson Memorial, the Lincoln Memorial. They want to see something, and they'd get shot. And you'd call their parents, I'm sorry, but your son is dead. And they go, what do you mean he's dead? Came to Washington, D.C. Not anymore. That's not happening anymore. We have a safe place. We have a safe capital.
And they're going around city to city. And it reminds me of almost, you know, hydrogen peroxide in a wound. You come in, you got this infection, you've got this gaping wound in your chest or, you know, knee or whatever. And you pour the hydrogen peroxide on it and you get that fizz. Kind of stings a little bit, but there's a reaction to it. You've got to clean out the infection. So you sprinkle it on, and you see this reaction to it. but you don't just leave it because you're going to have a reaction. That's ridiculous. Well, I don't like the hydrogen peroxide. Oh, okay. Do you like gangrene? And would you like to lose your entire limb? Well, then we're going to put some hydrogen peroxide on there, and it's going to fizzle and it's going to burn, and you're just going to keep going until it's cleared out. You understand? Once that fizzles over, and then you move on. So we're now going through a very similar process whereby we're going into the cities, we're seeing the reaction, and those, in most instances, are very likely the people that are the problem, that are endorsing the sanctuary city policy and that are enabling foreign invaders to take over our cities. Not anymore. Trump is appealing this. It's going to go up to the Ninth Circuit. We'll see what they say. We'll keep our eye on this one. Thanks for subscribing and joining as we do. All right, now, my friends, we've got another document to get into, and this one is a spicy one. Can't wait to see what you say about all this in this list. If your church is on this list, you might be subject to a foreign influence operation. Now, this one is pretty transparent because this list is coming from a FARA document that is explaining exactly what's going on. But it's targeting a bunch of West Coast states, including my state, Arizona. And you can see a bunch of churches are on here, some that you're very familiar with. Scottsdale Bible Church, very big in Scottsdale. Size, about 6,000. We've got a bigger one, 20,000 over here. Dream City Church, that's in Phoenix. And the list goes on and on. Now, a bunch of these are in Arizona, California, and various other locations. And I was trying to see if the St. Francis or the Franciscan Renewal Center was on this list. I don't think so. Maybe that's because they're Jesuits. But many churches that I recognize, having lived in Arizona my whole life, you've got one from California. We're going to come back on the California list. Some big ones in Colorado. Got a big one, 12,000 here, New Life Church. The rest of them, 2,000, 5,000, 15,000 over here. The Flatirons Community Church, big group over there. We've got Central Christian Church in Nevada, 21,000. Woodlands in Texas, 18,000. And the list goes on. 24,000 in Grapevine, 28,000 in South Lake, Texas. All of these churches now coming under scrutiny. And you can see the list just goes on and on and on and on and on and on and on. And what's interesting about this is the people behind this are calling this the biggest Christian geo-fencing campaign ever in their own documents, saying that we're targeting all these churches for a specific reason. You might agree with the reason, but here is what is ultimately happening. You can see from the DOJ, FARA registration statement, Exhibit A, this submitted not long ago at the end of September, explaining that the name of the registrant who is behind this operation is called Show Faith by Works, LLC, Show Faith by Works. And if you go over to their website, you're not going to find much. Showfaithbyworks.com. Of course, they're using cookies to track you because that's what this is all about. You can sign up. It's under construction, launching soon, so they're getting their paperwork in order. Primary address out in San Diego. And who are they acting on behalf of? Who are they acting as registrants for? Our greatest ally, baby, right here. Their Ministry of Foreign Affairs coming out of Jerusalem over there in the Middle East. Now, they say, here's what you want to disclose to us. Yep, we're acting on behalf of a government or foreign interest. We've got all these people coming in. And they're going to give us a bunch of details on exactly what's going on and how extensive this is and what they're going to be doing to those churches. But here is what is being signed. 9/26, this dude, Chad Schnitger, careful with that one, is here and signing off on it. Now, they write, there is no formal written contract between the registrant and the foreign principal. So we don't know like how much money they're going to get in total, or what the length of this agreement is. The agreement with the above named foreign principal has resulted from an exchange of correspondence. We've just been sending stuff and we're going to do this. If this box is checked, attach a copy of all the materials. Now, what is the date of contract or agreement with the foreign principal? You'll see 9/18/2025. So I don't know if this has already started and if you're in one of these churches, if you've already been targeted, but we'll find out. Now, here's the nature of what they're doing. So show faith by works on behalf of our greatest allies. They say, here's our plan. Christian outreach through various grassroots and digital targeting of Christians in the Western U.S. We will create a mobile museum to display at churches, Christian colleges, and Christian events. We will target and distribute pro-Israel information online and through targeted geo-fencing of all of those churches and using social media and digital tools. We will have teams of people reaching out to churches and pastors, and I'm going to show you like the breakdown, lots of money, lots of people, and possibly even Christian social media influencers who they're going to go talk to. Some of this is still undecided and fluid, but these are the outlets that we have planned and proposed. Well, what else are you going to do? We're also going to do more activities. Are they going to be political activities? Yes, clearly. Saying, well, what are you going to do politically? We're going to encourage Christians to have a more favorable view of the nation of Israel. And we're going to encourage Christians to visit Israel for tourism purposes. Now, have you engaged in any other activities like this before? No. First operation here. And during the beginning 60 days, have you received any income before you registered? During the period 60 days before you registered, were you getting cash or something? Yep. What'd you get? Oh, we got $325,000 from this company called Havas Media. They're based in Germany. And this is for Christian outreach in the Western United States. And so I think it's appropriate to talk about the amount of money as well. $325,000, we're just scratching the surface. It's going to be millions by the end of this. But just recall that when the Russians allegedly spent $100,000, you remember this? This is an NPR article from September 9, 2017, a PBS article. PBS says a Russian propaganda group purchased ads on Facebook during 2016. Here's what that means. Meltdown. We had a national crisis if you're a part of the Democratic Party because they bought $100,000 of political advertising. Now, of course, the Russians are not the same as the Israelis, but I just wanted to point out the numbers and show you what this bought. So $100,000, they found Facebook got 400, and this is in 2016, so before ChatGPT and all this stuff. Think about what's going on now. Facebook found 470 inauthentic accounts with 3,000 political ads. That's what $100,000 got. The ad purchases and the accounts are affiliated with the Russian troll farm, the Internet Research Agency. Most of the ads didn't even talk about the election. Instead, the ads were amplifying divisive social and political messages across the ideological spectrum, from LGBT stuff to race stuff to the gun rights stuff. And the company found, $50,000 worth of spending on 2,200 ads. So it's just lots of ads. It's a big spend. It's a lot of money. And lots of accounts are set up. And that's the Russian operation. That was about $100,000. Okay, so just to put things in context. So Christian outreach has started at $325,000, and we're just warming up. It's going to be much bigger than that. There's also money that they got from multiple recipients, who knows from whom. It's the amount of $66,000 in total. Signed off on by these people, 9/27, not long ago. Tuang Do, Melissa Lundy, Robert Pursley, and Emily Hemingway, all a part of this op. Here's another one. I'm declaring myself. And here's another one. Emily is declaring I understand. Chad's doing the same. Now let's get into the budget, shall we? Here you go. So a couple estimated costs that are detailed for us here. Greystone HR, 50 G's. Grassroots staff, $1.5 million. Grassroots equipment, $424,000. The targeted media budget, $685,000. And a specialist purchasing budget of $500,000. $3.2 million in total as the required budget. Now, additional options, if we could ask for more budget, we want to ask for another $835,000. And then guess what? they're going to continue to expand. So they want Utah, Wyoming, and they want another 250,000 for Texas because, you know, Texas is giant. So expand it. So they're starting west and they're marching east. Just kind of like a pilot program with about $3 to $4 million bucks. So that's the loose budget. And as we continue and fast forward through this, you'll see here's a detailed description of what they want. So payroll, we'll fast forward through that one. And we'll see, okay, this is, I mean, the details here are wild. So project manager, so this is a whole bucket of people who they need to hire. And this is paid for, by the way, from the Israelis who we pay. So it's us paying for this to happen in America. Money's fungible. They might say, well, that's military money. It's going for military service. Okay, fine. Then they don't have to buy that military with their money. And then they're using their money for this. Whatever. Just to be clear, they're setting up this entire operation to go persuade Christians to a certain ideological position. And this is the team that they're standing up. Project manager, deputy assistant, all the things. Let's listen to what some of these people are doing. Manage 3 teams and 6 states. Coordinate marketing digital teams with the Israeli consulate. Great. Be the direct point of contact and do administrative activities for Chad. Oh, gosh. Coordinate with top-tier Hollywood talent. Look, to book Christian celebrities and Christian athletes to deliver pro-Israel messaging. And use Hollywood connections to build a 5-star October 7th experience trailer. They've got a whole PowerPoint. We're going to look at that in a minute. They also want to help gather existing media and assemble them to give to social media teams, contact big name pastors and evangelical influencers, and encourage them to write op-eds and to get us access to major churches and Christian colleges. Is this what Charlie Kirk was recommending? Because we read his letter. I don't think so. I think he was saying how they should create their own content and share their messages, not co-opt and spam people with ads. But what do I know? Coordinate with Woody and the Israeli consulate. So this is his other person. And they've got a bunch of people already for this. Zach Long. You've got pastors who are going to go be working for the Israelis. Pastor Justin Kowalski, Pastor Ty Victor or others, Zach Long, are all in the candidates list. A Rick Warren ally. Kelly McGrath might be hired. Chad is, of course. This is what they want. They want in-house. They want a pastoral research plan, stipends. They also want this person, Melissa Lundy. She's going to coordinate all the activities for California, Nevada, Arizona, traveling plans, commutes to all the Christian colleges, researches and books things. It's a full team. It's a full stand-up. And then, of course, a couple other people. The Dillon law firm, Harmeet Dillon. Oh, that's interesting. She's going to keep in compliance with foreign agent registration. Wow. That's nice that she'll be, her law firm will be helping with that. So we've got that. Very convenient for them since she's, running the civil division. So here's what they're going to work on. Vehicle to tow the new 10.7 trailer. So they're going to have a 10.7 experience. It's going to be a large fifth wheel capable of towing the vehicle for 30 to 40 feet. It's going to be a mobile trailer, and they've got some slides for this. There's going to be a maintenance and a fuel budget. There's going to be walls, a touch screen, 55-inch touch screen with 3x displays, tent imagery, printed signs, and they're going to have scene materials to mimic 10.7. VR headsets, and they're going to create an immersive 10.7 experience. I don't even know what that means. Like you're going to get killed by a Hamas person or something? Are they going to beam Netanyahu into your frontal cortex? I don't know. But portable 3,600 watt generator. They're sponsoring a bunch of events, travel budget and more, printed materials, pastoral research packaging, and more. And I want to show you this because they're basically treating this whole operation just like a marketing operation. And they even have a funnel that they'll show you what their numbers show. So here's what they want. Ford vehicle, about $70,000. America is paying billions over to Israel. And so they're just turning that back around and buying Fords. Maybe this is the same argument that they often make. It's like, well, they have to spend it on our military. It's like, oh, great. So does that also apply to this? They have to spend it on our domestic propaganda. Is that like good now that they're buying Fords to go and spread their message. I don't know that that's appropriate, but here's more. You can see the budget is all listed out. Total budget about $500,000, which is coming from the Israelis. And here's more. Here's the description. Okay, just to be clear on what they're doing. This is the largest geo-fencing and targeted Christian digital campaign ever, according to them. They're going to geo-fence the actual boundaries of every major church in California, Arizona, Nevada, and Colorado, and all Christian colleges during worship times. So while you're in there praying, they're gobbling up your data, the Israelis. Track attendees and continue to target them with ads. Now, also geofence our own events and other Christian events and continue to target Christians with effective ads and call to action. Create and collate on social media, target the Christians. 4-week web development timeline, creating logos, themes, and other things. Security to prevent attacks, and redirect all web traffic to friendly sites. And ensure the websites are at the top of the search results and prioritize our information demographics. That's what they're doing with their $4 million. So as it continues, you're going to see they give us a lot more details, about $685,000 for that. They need custom stuff. They need swag handouts. They need Christian endorsements with Christian influencers. 175 Gs for the mobile 10/7 experience. Another $550,000 is needed here. And here is where they do the breakdown. All right, the number of Christian megachurches. California, 219, Nevada, 14, Arizona, 38, Colorado, 32. Total, 303 churches. They do a targeted Christian population, which is fun. Isn't that fun to be a targeted Christian population by foreign intelligence, by foreign diplomacy? 60% of them within the major population centers, 3.8, almost $3.9 million. Million people. Now they say that of those, a certain percentage of these people will convert. So they're going to target 3.9 million Christians. And then the high estimate, they're going to convert 233,000 people will convert to their thinking. Estimated number of churches and Christians that we think will agree to our programs or attend our events or sign a pledge card is 5 to 10%. So if 5% convert, they'll pick up 100,000 people with a pledge card for whatever. And 200,000 is at the high estimate. Giant numbers of people. Churchgoers and non-evangelical churchgoers. You can see here's the total numbers there. And the price per contact to get these people to go and sign a pledge card or whatever. On the low end, $13 a head. On the high end, $27 a head. It's just an entire marketing platform. Total population estimate, 3.7 million. And all of this fully transparent. As you can see, here's what they're targeting, 303 churches. We got some slides coming up in a minute. Targeted population over here. We've got all the churches that are listed. So all of these churches, if you're in it, you're going to be geo-fenced and your info will be gobbled up. And then you'll be sent some information from the Israelis. And what are they going to send you? What is the mission here? What is the goal? Is detailed for us in their slides, as we'll see. So here are all of the other entities that they're going after, all the denominations. We've got some billing that has come out, some documents showing what the invoice will be. So $3.2 million in equal payments of $651,000 on the 15th. So this has been going on August 15th, September, October, and November. So it may already be underway. So if you're in those churches, you might be seeing this stuff happening soon. Now, here are their slides. Show Faith by Works, a Christian education and Israeli information campaign, paid for probably by American taxpayer dollars. So here's what they're doing now. They're going to combat low American evangelical Christian approval of the nation of Israel. And they're going to use biblical arguments to highlight the importance of Israel and the Jewish people to Christians. And they're going to educate Christians on the historical importance of Israel and the significance in the region. And they're going to increase awareness of Palestinian ties to Hamas. And how they want to kill you with evangelical populations. They're also going to counter new and evolving pro-Palestinian messaging as the global narrative shifts. And I think this strategy is just a terrible strategy, personally. I think it's going to backfire big time because people don't want to be force-fed an ideology. It's just too much. But they're also going to do this. They're also going to combine digital targeting and social media outreach to increase positive associations with the nation of Israel, large-scale Christian outreach, impressive physical displays of pro-Israel educational materials, and more. So here's some of the messages. Like, there's a lot of them. Messages to pastors and Christians about Israel, its history, its biblical significance, about the history of Jews. Educational messages about the history of the creation of Israel, its legitimacy as a power in the region, and its protection of non-Jewish populations. Questions about the two-state solution, the historical existence and coexistence between Jews and Arabs, and Christians in Israel and the birthplace of Jesus. And, you know, a whole section on the anti-Palestinian state. So they're going to say Hamas is a Palestinian terrorist organization. Palestinians elect Hamas. There was never a state of Palestine. Highlight that the Palestinian and Iranian goals are not land focused, but they're genocidal. Educate Christians on the history of radical Islam from the Israeli perspective, I'm sure, and highlight Palestinian support. It's just based, you know, it's a full-on propaganda campaign is the only thing you can call it. And you might be in favor of it, right? You might say you're in favor of this in terms of the substance of it, but are you in favor of having our foreign money cleaned, our money cleaned through a foreign nation and then spent this way back to convince Americans of a certain ideology? Isn't that what our government is for? What our educational system is for? We want foreign countries coming in here and spending money to shift public opinion on these matters that might lead to another full-blown war. Now, here are the themes, educational themes, history of Israel, counter popular and incorrect, they say, arguments about aid, military targeting, root cause of the conflict, and legitimacy of their land claims, how churches can visit the Holy Land. And so it's not just like, it's not a tourism type of effort. Hey, remember Arnold Schwarzenegger? Come to California. Come to California. You're like, okay, great. Or is it come to Israel? Israel's amazing. It's info warfare, which is happening. So they're going to hire a bunch of Christians. They're going to hire physical staff. They're going to build and deploy top-of-the-line mobile Israel displays with October 7th themes. They're going to ask for messages to go out in Christian churches by Christian leaders and co-opt Christian leaders for their own messages. And they're going to go to colleges and they're going to hire students and do all of the things, which I think is actually not a bad idea, right? But they don't need to co-opt the Christians. They can just do it themselves. Christian podcast hosts by prominent Christian leaders, Christian social media influencers going to target them. There's going to be digital support. Again, this is the largest geo-fencing and Christian targeting campaign in U.S. history. Okay, a digital targeting. It's going to redirect Christians to a website where pro-Israeli media can be found and forwarded. Charlie did talk about that. That they should create more media and respond. And this is their van. They're going to have a mobile setup that visits Christian colleges. And they're going to highlight the 10/7 atrocities with a VR headsets and set pieces and full-length TV. They're going to go to Christian events, and they're going to have Christmas messaging, which is just amazing. December for the Christian church is entirely about Christmas, with the birth of Jesus. Suggested targeting messaging and changes for mega churches. Say, we protect Christians like no one else in the Middle East. Israel's the birthplace of Jesus. Come see Bethlehem for yourself. And it's all underway. And I don't appreciate foreign money coming in to try to brainwash people any which way. And I tried to find something. Is Qatar doing this? Is Qatar brainwashing people and releasing FARA documents like this? And I haven't seen anything. And if they are, I would love to see them like this. Are they targeting Christians to counter Israeli propaganda with Islam propaganda? Or I don't know what exactly is going on from the other end. But if you have any resources on that, I would like to see them. And if they're putting out full slides on this about how they're going to target the Christian churches and spread their message through those churches, then I think that is a problem across the board. Now, our laws allow it. There's nothing illegal about it. This is all, I appreciate the transparency on it. I just feel it's a little inappropriate for us to be paying for foreign countries to propagandize our own people, even if they do just disclose it and register it. And personally, I find stuff like this extremely distasteful. And I think that it is more about promotion than attraction. And I think what Charlie was saying to the Israelis is just show how attractive you can be. Just, live that and spread that message around. You don't have to, spend money and kind of co-opt influencers, because people then get resentful about that and target Christian and Catholic churches to shift the narrative in America. Why do they need to do that, by the way? What is that for? To raise money, to raise support for more wars? Like, what is the end game? I don't really know, but it's certainly a strange set of affairs. When the Russians do it, it's interference with our elections. When it's the Israelis doing it, you have a lot of people endorsing it, geo-targeting Christian churches all over the country for a propaganda campaign. You might like the propaganda, but it's still propaganda from a foreign nation. It's coming in. And it seems very strange and concerning. And people like Marjorie Taylor Greene and others have called for this to require people to register as foreign agents. And I would be in total support of that. Maybe she'll introduce some legislation for that. But Benjamin Netanyahu is right. There is a battle happening here on the internet, and here is how he framed it.
We have to fight back. How do we fight back? Our influencers. I think you should also talk to them if you have a chance. To that community, they're very important. And secondly, we're going to have to use the tools of battle. The weapons change over time. You can't fight today with swords. That doesn't work very well. Okay, and you can't fight with cavalry. That doesn't work very well. And you have these new things, like drones, things like that. I won't get into that. But we have to fight with the weapons that apply to the battlefields in which we're engaged. And the most important ones are the social media. And the most important purchase that is going on right now is followers. TikTok. TikTok. Number one. And I hope it goes through, because it can be consequential. And the other one, what's the other one that's most important? X. That's very good. And, so we have to talk to Elon. He's not an enemy. He's a friend. We should talk to him.
Yep. So there is a new battlefield, and I think this is one attempt at shaping and shifting public opinion. But personally, I think stuff like this is just set to backfire, because people want to come to their own conclusions. They don't want to be spammed with ads on Facebook. They don't want their sacred spaces of the churches being the subject of a political campaign and geo-targeting by foreign nations. And if Qatar is doing this too, which I haven't seen any evidence that they are, that would also be reprehensible. This is our sacred space. These are our churches. We don't want to come out of there getting cookied up with a bunch of propaganda from foreign nations, especially the ones that we're paying for. So we'll see what ultimately happens. I don't know what Charlie Kirk would say about this, but I think that his prescription was more about creating attractive content, not co-opting other people who've created attractive content and utilizing them for your own end goals. So we'll see ultimately what happens. I'm hopeful that we finally have peace on this issue so we can never talk about this stuff again, and we can stop all this, propaganda and cajoling of the laws to serve special interest groups in America, because we got our own problems to worry about here without having to be brainwashed by intelligence operations. So we'll keep our eye on this, my friends. Thanks for subscribing and joining as we do. All right. Let's see what you guys say about all of this and more. It's a beautiful Monday, and welcome to a brand fresh new week. Let's see who's joining us on the day in the house. Let's see what we've got. Hey, Donna and John clipping for us. Thank you for doing this. And we got a couple donos today. Thank you, my friends. Says, here's the day whatever of the government shutdown. What a beautiful image that is. Look at how peaceful and pleasant that is, with flowers and birds in the air. Hey, Thus We Stand just became a membo. Good to see you, Thus We Stand. Thanks for supporting us over on the Rumbles. Great to have you. Former LEO is here. He says, one Arnold buck. I owe you real money. Remember when Arnold would say, come to California, Ugh. Says, hey, maybe we should start issuing these in D.C. One Arnold buck. I owe you real money. I remember that in California. They had some budgetary problems, I think. Mark Shaw, what's up? Says, sanctuary cities and states are literally committing rebellion or insurrection as defined by 18 U.S. Code 2383 by failing to comply with U.S. immigration law. The DOJ needs to indict all these mayors and governors. Yeah, I would like to see them ratchet it up a little bit. Like they're playing like, JV stuff. They need a little bit of inspiration from the Biden DOJ. I'm not saying to break the laws, but like to go after, people who they deem to be threats to America. Like, where's that flavor? We want a little bit of that. Gene Crane. What you don't see in that Antifa clip is the Portland police are across the street in stand down order. Just standing there, watching it. Yeah, well, we saw they arrested Nick Sorter, and they were perfectly okay with Katie Davis Court getting her head beat in. Just allow it to go on. Don't even care. From Gene Crane. Thank you, Gene, for the nice dono. Bonnie's here. What's up, Bonnie? Says, forget the National Guard. Trump needs to hire private military contractors to protect our ICE facilities. I hear Blackwater, now renamed Academy, is available. I'm sure remnants of the Wagner Group are around too. They don't care who they fight for. I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure. I think our National Guard would probably also enjoy the, decision to protect federal facilities. But either way, whoever needs to restore order, we're here for it. Thank you, Bonnie. Michelle says, during school desegregation, the president sent troops to Alabama once without the governor's consent. It's just a basic example. The president sending the military to deal with unrest is not a new thing. No, and especially for federal property. He doesn't have jurisdiction over that, is what the judge is saying, which is ridiculous. That's obviously insane. So we'll see what these courts do and how quickly they act, but hopefully it's quick. Leonard, what's up? The violence in Portland in the last few weeks is often more intense than anything that happened on J6. Yes, absolutely right. And it's been longer and protracted, whereas J6 was over very quickly, and they had to turn it into something. That's why they went after everybody with, trespass charges. There was some violence for sure, but not as much as not even close to what they perverted it to be. King of Biltong is in the house. Good to see you, Biltong. Says, get yourself some tasty, high-protein snacks, my friend. Biltong is packed with B vitamins, creatine, iron, zinc, and more. It's perfect for carnivore and keto diets. It's at BiltongUSA.com, and you can use code Robert for 10% off in the house, courtesy of King of Biltong. Thank you, King of Biltong, for the dono. Down the stairs, says Jack, not a real boy. Smith was busted spying on the GOP. So we covered a little bit of the spying stuff on the Chuck Grassley document reveal. We'll look to see if there's more on that and get to it. Milo Phone Bill says Portland Andy covers the day after day Portland raids at the Portland's ICE facility in South Portland. Is that Andy in the house? Or it's another person named Andy. Looks like the Portland Andy show. Man, shout out to Portland Andy, man. Be safe out there. Jedi Trump. What's up, Jedi Trump? Membo, stick around. We had a great members only stream this morning. We're going to hang out. We're going to do an after party, and we'll see you in a bit. Chubby's here. Says Trump is throwing around insurrection and, quote, insurrectionists a lot the past week. I'm hoping it means he's getting fed up enough that he's looking to use the Insurrection Act and go after Oregon, Illinois, and California. Yeah, he was asked about that today, and he said, I'm looking at it. I'm looking into it. Thank you, Chubby. Jim tells you, hello, Robert. Love the show. Good to see you, Jim tells you. Thanks for being here for 3 months. First month's the hardest. Gets easier from there. We're 1/3 of the way to a baby. What's up, Leonard S.? Dems are waiting for some incident that they can exploit like they exploited the Floyd incident. The corrupt media will back the Dems. Yeah, I mean, and they turned George Floyd into St. George, remember? Yeah, I think they would really like for that to happen. Like some, right winger to go do something very bad. And they could say, see, it's both sides. E. Texley says, in Israel, tourism is one of the top industries. Evangelical Christians are among the most enthusiastic of the tourists. Usually they go to Israel in groups organized by their local churches. So I understand that. Like a tour, and there was some of that in there. Like they were encouraging people to visit Israel. No question. But they were also like, we're going to tell them about how bad Hamas is. It's influence. They're trying to shift people's voting habits and shift our civic discourse. And I don't appreciate foreign countries doing that. If somebody else wants to do that, that's fine. You can say we've got competing interest and money is free, but are we just going to open that up to everybody? Like we want the Chinese to come do that. We want the Qatar to do it. We want all these countries to just come in here and like push their ideas on our populace. We can't even get our own population to care about our own country. Dang it. And we're trying to get people in church to understand what the pastor is saying, okay, what their churches are saying, not go out and get like, Anyways, Knox is here. Say, happy Monday, all. Cellbrite, the company used by most law enforcement to download phones, is an Israeli data firm. We have been getting denied data without paying a user fee. From Knox. Knox is a defense attorney in Texas. Interesting. A user fee in order to get data from law enforcement? That's curious. So they're not giving it to you as part of discovery. You got to pay an extra fee. Interesting. Hey, Shino, make sure Jack Hibbs, Calvary Chapel, and Chino Hills, California, to get this craziness out to other pastors. Shino says this. Yeah, and are pastors okay with this? Are pastors okay with like foreign nations targeting their constituency? Targeting their flock? Just like shooting fish in a barrel? We'll get all these Christian evangelicals. What is that? Uncle Bozy says Chicago mayor threatens to use CBD to block or even arrest ICE agents. Yeah, I saw that. The Chicago mayor, Brandon Johnson. Portland pretty much has blocked their cops from backing up ICE. Conservatives being beaten. And yet again, here we are going over this obsession with Israel. I'm done with it. Almost every day it's Israel and Jews. Here, just my opinion, but please don't be a tool of those seeking to divide the right. I'm done here, but I do wish you the best. Sorry to see that, Uncle Bozy. Appreciate you being here. I don't know what you're upset about, to be honest. It's not me ripping on Israel and the Jews. This is them spending millions of dollars to change public opinion in America. And we don't talk about Israel and the Jews every day at all. In fact, I do my best to avoid it because it's such an annoying topic, to be honest with you. But thanks for being here. I appreciate everything you've brought to the show. I appreciate, the things that you've sent. And I wish you the best. Hopefully you can go find another show that doesn't talk about Israel and the Jews. So Knox is here. Thank you, Knox. Hey, live with Tucker Carlson. Speeding towards World War III. Yeah, I really don't have all that much opinion about Israel. I have opinion about what they're doing to America and how they're trying to brainwash certain portions of the population and how they're trying to write anti-Semitism laws into our laws. I don't appreciate that. It's about America, not about Israel. NY says, so Israel has a pro-informational campaign. The pro-Palestinian comes in through the colleges and universities. I don't see anything wrong with it. Are foreign governments spending money in our universities to spend to shift a pro-Palestinian cause? That's also wrong. That's my point. Knox is here. Says AIPAC does not currently register under FARA. No, they don't. I think the influencers who are getting paid by Israel should. I think the influencers who are getting paid by Qatar should, if they are. Everybody should register. It's ridiculous that you're pushing propaganda on Americans paid for by foreign countries. It's ridiculous. So yeah, I mean, but okay, I understand if you don't agree. OSPAC, I'm still worried about this. The worst part about a government shutdown is that it's going to open back up from OSPAC. Yep. Bruce Wayne, what's up? Our data spewed all over the place. That's right. 20 months as a membo. Thank you, Bruce Wayne. It is. It's spewed all over the place and now gobbled up by foreign intelligence. Michelle, let there be peace on earth and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be. From Michelle. Yeah, not today, apparently. Hey, South Carolina judge, house was set on fire. The Trump administration just spoke out against it. Totally. Did they find out why it burnt down? Or what was it? This one came in from Sharpie Guy. Hey, I'm 100% with you, Rob. And if anything, Jerusalem looks Jewish. So at the end of their saturation campaign, I'm wondering if they think they're changing Christians away from our Lord and Savior to their Lord and Savior. What to what? No way I'm leaving my faith. And if they're after atheists to their vision, to their version of the Bible or not, or if they already bailed on Muslims. I mean, what the heck? Blessings, y'all. Yeah. Knox is here. Cellbrite. Cellbrite software is used for the phone dump and offered to me on an external link. The link then leads me to the Cellbrite site where they want me to register and pay a user fee. Interesting. Good to see you, Knox. Thanks for the details. Yeah, and Milo says, here is an interesting Havas Media ad about their geofencing capabilities. Is here from via YouTube. Says Milo phone bill. Hey, what's going on? John says, okay, Rob, here is the reason Israel is the most important ally we have. Well, this is a pretty good reason. They found an ancient UFO arsenal under the Temple Mount, and they are back engineering it and giving us the designs. Best explanation I can come up with. That's a pretty good explanation. Yeah, it's just, it's one of these topics. It's like, as soon as you say anything about Israel, it's like, oh, I hate your guts now because you said something about it. It's like, all right, whatever, man. That's fine. I understand. We are showing you the documents and explaining what's happening in the greatest Christian targeting organization ever. And it's done by a foreign nation. It's like, well, you hate Israel. It's like, no, I don't. But I don't appreciate that happening. So anyways, so I guess we're going to have to agree to disagree on this one. But anytime that there's foreign influence, we're going to talk about that. If there's a massive operation like this from any other nation, we would talk about it. They're not doing it. It's only one nation that is, as far as we can see. If there's a FARA document or some other evidence that you have out there that you'd like to respond with and say, Rob, can you talk about this operation that's actually a bigger Christian targeting operation or something? We'll do that. But I personally think it's very important that people know what's happening, that their brains are being fought for in this information battle, and millions of dollars are going into it to target a specific class of people. If that's not newsworthy and important, then I don't know what is, to be honest with you. But anyways, I appreciate that, my friends. Okay, so we'll leave it there. And that might be the reason, the secret alien spaceship. I don't know. As good of reason as I've heard, because I hear a lot of reasons. But all right, so we got Neuro D, what's going on? Be Torn, thank you for this. Be Torn, sharing some comments over on X. James Pepper over on X. Fred Petamonte, thank you for that comment. Some spicy comments over on X. Yeah, what's up, OTR Smokehouse? Yeah, I remember when Arnold said, F your freedoms. Lots of people will gobble up forced propaganda. Some comments about Israel, biblical Israel, all those conversations. Yep. Good stuff, OTR. Thank you for that. Fred, great to have you. James Pepper, thanks for the comments. And my friends, those of you who are still here and have not unsubscribed or canceled your memberships, thank you for being here. Thanks for joining us as we covered that story. We're going to go over and have our members only after party. Can't wait to see you there. Before we do, we want to thank our amazing mods and meme smiths. Big shout outs to John and Donut clipping for us today. Thank you both. Carrie B, K Bean in the mornings. Thank you both. We've got Neuro D, Janek, Dog Digger over on the Rumbles, and our friends Jigum, Elliot, and Just Rhonda, all helping to mod the fort down for us to keep things nice and orderly around here. But we're going to pause here for the day. We're going to go over to watchingthewatchers.locals.com and YouTube members. We'll see you in the after party if you care to join us. But it's been a beautiful stream, my friends. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for subscribing if you haven't already done so. Thanks for sharing this video with someone else you think needs to know this stuff. A lot of people unhappy with what we talked about today, it sounds like, but I think it's important stuff. And so I hope you do too. And if not, you'll let me know in the comments and elsewhere. So we'll be back tomorrow. We'll get back into it on the day. We're going over to watchingthewatchers.locals.com and on YouTube members only after party. Come join us, my friends. Otherwise, I want to wish you the best night's sleep that you've ever had in your entire life. And I hope you come back tomorrow to get into it again, because we are coming back tomorrow. And in order to do that appropriately, we are going to need to see you right back here so that together with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a beautiful night, my friends. Sleep very well. We'll see you right back here tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching, my beautiful friends. Now it's that time where the stream must end. We brought the heat with every chat and line. Together we exposed corruption. One more time we dove in the truth where the media hides. Lit up the lies with receipts on all sides. The fight isn't over, but we made them sweat. We ain't done yet, no, not just yet. Because together we are watching the watchers. Truth on our side. Watching the watchers. We won't be denied. Watching the watchers. Eyes open wide. Fighting for freedom with nothing to hide. Drop a like and don't forget to share. And bring a friend who's ready to care. Tomorrow's lies are just today's news, but here we see through the scripted ruse. Together we are watching the watchers, shining the light. Watching the watchers, defending what's right. Watching the watchers, still